Let's take a look at our top selections for Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer taking a look at the feature race at Aqueduct on Saturday. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 3. Red Smith, we're going 1 3/8 on the inner turf. $100,000 is the purse. The 4 Sadler's Joy has just been a remarkably consistent horse for a very long time, Mike. 8-5 on the morning line, won the Red Smith last year. He's banked over $2.5 million. Joel Rosario gets the call here on a horse that sometimes can be a little bit difficult to ride.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like he's quite the handful that he used to be, Dan, where it almost felt like you had to time it right or else he was in real trouble. I don't look at him as that kind of a horse anymore. Maybe that's just, maturity kicking in for him. But, either way, Rosario feels like he fits him well. This horse hasn't won a race this year. He did finish first in the Bowling Green before being disqualified. So officially he's 0 for 7. He still looks pretty good to me, Dan. He's supposed to be very tough in here.
Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector. Talk about a horse that's difficult to ride. The number 10 Red Knight, who we're expecting to see in mid-pack. He can be a handful, although it seems he's settled down recently, and Bill Mott's got him in very good form.
Yeah, he isn't very good. His last 2 races are both very good and would make him very tough in here. And you're right. Another horse who can be hard to ride, but he rated very kindly last time before he won the Sycamore.
We've got a couple of horses stretching out in here. That might make this Timeform US pace projector a little bit murky. I would have to think that the number 2 postulation is going to be, the number 3 postulation is going to be on the lead. I mean, this is a horse that was up front last time out in the Sycamore. They've adopted front-running tactics in all 3 starts this year, and he's run okay.
He has run okay. He's having trouble winning races, which is a real problem. But he certainly ran fine last time on the lead most of the way.
Let's talk a little bit about the number 1 Real Factor. Timeform US has this horse expected to be on the early lead. He is stretching way out from 1 1/16 on synthetic to 1 3/8. He's run okay going long on the turf in the past, but he's yet to win on the grass. 0 for 12, and this just seems like a tough spot for a turf maiden.
Yeah, he's not competitive in this race.
Number 2 is Chenji, another horse stretching way out. This was run at 1 mile last time out at Remington Park, got beat 3 lengths. He's kind of a nice little Louisiana bred, and I wonder if we'll see him once again at the fairgrounds next year. 31 starts for a 4-year-old.
Yeah, they run him a lot. They've run him in 2 Grade 3s already this year. He was 157 to 1 in one of them. He was 78 to 1, and the other will be a similarly big price in this race.
Let's talk a little bit about postulation. This is a horse that we're expecting to be close to the pace. Just seems like when he gets into these graded stakes events, Mike, he finds 1 or 2 better. That's what happened last time out in the Sycamore when he got to a pretty easy lead and Red Knight ran him down in the shadow of the wire. You could argue, considering some of the trouble that some of the horses in that race had, that maybe he wasn't even second best. But he'll be up front. He handles the distance. He's run well at Aqueduct in both starts. I think the tighter turns here work to this horse's advantage.
I mean, we'll see. I'll expect that he'll get another good trip, Dan, because he's got that kind of tactical speed, and he's, if nothing else, he's very consistent. He is a graded stakes winner going long on the turf, but since he won that Grade 3 at Arlington, that was 3 years ago. He's 1 for 16. He doesn't win that often. He was right there last time. He ran pretty well in the Elkhorn also at Keeneland back in July. We'll see what he does. He's a good price in here. I'm not going to knock him.
Sadler's Joy, again, the class of the race. Let's watch his most recent start. It was the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic at Belmont. He saved ground early. He's now on the outside. He came 4 wide on the turn, and he's going to run a good third. Channel Maker's just seeing dead red right now. And I have a feeling this Lucario, who's staying in North America, I believe with Graham Motion, is going to be an interesting horse to watch next year. Sadler's Joy ran okay in this spot.
Yeah, I thought he ran okay, too. He wasn't going to beat Channel Maker, who just wasn't coming back for him in the stretch, but he made a pretty good run into the race, and he flattened out a little bit at the end. I thought he ran fine. Before that, he has a pretty big excuse for the sword dancer over a boggy turf course. And prior to that, I just thought he, came back in really good form this year, Dan. I don't really know what to say. I think he deserves to be the favorite in here. I think he is way the horse to beat. And overall, I don't know that this race is, that much tougher than last year's Red Smith, and he won that race very easily.
North Dakota is the number 5 as we take a look at the entry card. North Dakota 4th last time out in the Sycamore. This is a horse that had won 3 of 4. Just seems like a typical late developing Shug McGahee runner. He he had trouble in the Sycamore. He was trying to come up on the inside. He sort of got checked into the rail, came out again, was running on. It seems like he is on the improve.
Yeah, that's how I look at him too. I mean, he showed that he was taking steps forward earlier this year down at Tampa. He wasn't beating anything in those races, but he ran those fields right over. He was very impressive in those wins, I thought. And I thought it was very encouraging, his run in the Sycamore last time. It was the first time they stretched him all the way out, the first time that they really stepped him way up in class, and I thought he acquitted himself very well. This is an interesting horse.
The 6 Tintoretto is 50-1 on the morning line. Just didn't face the toughest competition over in Germany last year. We know he does want to go long. He's now in the Tommy Albertrani barn. Maybe he'll be a little bit forwardly placed here, but this is a really tough ask.
It is. If he had run, a little bit better, maybe in, either one of his 2 races in Southern California over the summer, maybe I would be mildly interesting, but I didn't really see him do anything in those races.
Fame to Famous has only won once. That was a restricted maiden race at Belmont going a mile in October of 2019. I would expect this horse to be forwardly placed. How can he not be? It's his second start off the layoff. He's stretching out 6 furlongs. I just have a lot of problems seeing him around at the wire. They keep putting him in tough spots.
Yeah, they do. He's shown himself not to really be competitive in stakes races, Dan, and this is going to be probably the toughest turf race for him yet. I mean, he's not terrible, but he doesn't really belong in a race like this.
Our next 3 horses come out of the Sycamore Stakes. We're going to take a look at that one. It was won by Red Knight. Zayad to finish 3rd, first back in North America for Graham Motion. And as we take a look at the Sycamore Stakes, we see Red Knight on the outside. He's just going to go right by Postulation. Postulation has the lead. Red Knight's on the outside. Down towards the inside is North Dakota in the green cap. He's going to check off the rail. And outside of those horses comes Zayad. I really couldn't see Zayad's excuse, Mike. I guess he came wide on the turn. Maybe you could make that as an excuse. I couldn't see Postulation's excuse. I thought the winner ran well. I thought North Dakota ran well.
I did too. Red Knight was best in here. Red Knight got a very good trip in that race, but he also ran really well. It just feels like he's in really good form right now. Zayad, I mean, I guess, Dan, if you wanted to give one horse another chance out of the race, it could be Zayad, if only because he never got to save any ground, always on the outside from post 10, never really got over anywhere near the rail. And he was staying on, pretty well at the end of that race. I guess my biggest problem with him is I really don't like his Canadian International last year when they brought him over. He didn't run terribly in there, but he was a pretty heavy favorite. He had a candy trip on the lead, and the horse that ran him down had all kinds of trouble, all kinds of excuses not to win, and ran this horse down pretty easily. I was pretty disappointed in that race, and there's just really nothing about him that makes me want to bet him as, possibly one of the favorites in here.
He does have back class, however, as multiple Group 1 placed in France. Aquaphobia was part of the pace picture in the Sycamore, and he just tired. And I wonder if it's a case, Mike, of this is just a horse that's had a very long and hard campaign. He's done very well since being claimed by Michael Maker. And I wonder if he's just starting to feel the effects of a tough 2020. This is going to be his 9th start, or it could simply be he didn't like Keeneland. Other than that, he's pretty consistent.
That's actually a pretty good point you make there, Dan. I mean, this horse really hasn't had a break, going back to last July. He's been in constant training since then without getting a layoff. So maybe he's in need of one. He did run very poorly last time. If he runs his United Nations back, I suppose he's a contender in here. I just didn't want to bet him.
As for Red Knight, he was second in the Red Smith last year behind Sadler's Joy. He's been nursed along by Bill Mott very nicely. 2 triple-digit buyers in a row. We saw him win the Sycamore. He's just in very good form. And if he relaxes early, as he has seemingly learned to do in his last few races, you got to think he's going to come with a strong kick.
Yeah, I'll expect him to run well again. His last 2 races are very good. It seems like distance has really been the key for this horse, and he keeps getting better. Last year in this race, it was really no contest. He ran well to be second, but he was no match for Sadler's Joy. I won't be surprised if it was closer this time.
Let's talk a little bit about Dr. Monty. Maybe he'll get a little bit more forward as he did 2 starts back when they just handed him the Henry Clark on good going at Laurel. I mean, he was able to not only walk on the lead, but just shake loose. And then was too much for those horses in the stretch. Didn't get that trip last time out in the dinner party against a really good horse in Factor This. He wouldn't mind a little give him the ground.
Yeah, he might get a little give in the ground. We'll see how that all plays out. He's okay. I mean, I don't feel like this horse is totally over his head in this race. We'll see about him stretching out to 11 furlongs. He's never been this far, but he's pretty versatile as far as trips go. You can send him or you can take him back, and he'll run either way. He's not that much slower than some of the other horses in here.
Top pick time for the Red Smith. The logical horses in here are the 4 and the 10. They're the horses to beat. I've always had a little thing for Postulation. He rarely wins. I think he's going to be a good price. I think he's going to get close to the pace, and I think he's run well at Aqueduct. I'm really not against the 2 favorites in here. As you see, I have them 2nd and 3rd. You think Sadler's Joy slightly classier and better than the number 10 Red Knight?
I do. I just feel like he is actually in good form this year, even though he hasn't, gotten anything into the win column yet. He's run some really good races, and I just think they found the right spot here. Then I chalked it out. I have the 2 favorites on top. I'll throw North Dakota in there because I do think he has upside.
4, 10, 5, and 8 for Mike. 3, 4, 10, and 8 for me. It's the feature at Aqueduct on Saturday. The Grade 3 Red Smith. Best of luck.